Swen Nater had a very rough childhood in the Netherlands, as after his mother remarried, she left for America, abandoning Swen and his sister in an orphanage. In some sort of miracle, they were discovered by a TV show and brought stateside. Swen didn't like his new stepfather, especially after he didn't let him play basketball initially. He had grown to 6'11" and decided to try out for the high school team, but he was cut as a junior while never trying out as a senior. After a solid sophomore year in JUCO, he earned a scholarship to UCLA. He was still very raw as a player, so his main job was to help Bill Walton get better. Even though he never played in high school or started a game at UCLA, he was drafted in the first round by the Bucks in 1973 to back up Kareem. But Swen knew he was good enough to start, so he decided to play in the ABA. He was the epitome of a glass cleaner, seemingly knowing where the ball would bounce off the rim almost every time. He was a solid screen setter, and he always took smart shots. Once he got to the NBA, he had developed a nice post game as well. Swen became the first player to lead the ABA and the NBA in rebounding, and he was one of the biggest examples of beating the odds, as he went from an orphanage to the All-Star game. Welcome to PZ Hoops, and this is another episode of ABA Tales. Swen was born on January 14, 1950 in the Netherlands. His parents divorced when he was 3, and when his mother remarried, the family's economic situation got worse. She, her new husband, and Swen's younger brother left for America, leaving him and his younger sister in an orphanage. They would remain there for 3 years until they were discovered by the TV show It Could Be You, where they were brought to America to be reunited with other family members. Swen was now 9 years old in a new country, not knowing any English. He didn't get along with his new stepfather, who was against him playing basketball. He went out for the high school team as a junior, showing up barefoot to the first practice. After he returned to a practice with a pair of shoes he stole from a teammate, he was told to leave. He didn't try out as a senior, but he didn't give up on his dream, enrolling at Cypress College, a JUCO in California. At this point, he and his stepfather continued to butt heads over basketball. His stepfather forbade him from going to Cypress, but Swen would move out. He played sparingly as a freshman, but his sophomore year was where he really shined, averaging 21 points and 14 rebounds, becoming a community college All-American. He had college offers coming in from all over the country, but he decided to play at UCLA. He knew he could have played anywhere else, but he felt like John Wooden's coaching and playing behind Bill Walton was the best path to the pros. Swen redshirted his first year with the Bruins as he was still learning the game. As a junior, he rode the bench as the Bruins ran the table, going 30-0. He averaged 7 points and 5 rebounds as UCLA faced Weber State in the first round of the Big Dance. This game was decided pretty early, so he was able to get some minutes, dropping 12 points and 8 rebounds in the win. He had 5 points in 3 minutes against Long Beach State, and he had 2 points in 4 minutes against Louisville. He scored once in 6 minutes in the national championship against Florida State, where UCLA would win. Swen had an even smaller role as a senior with the emergence of Larry Farmer and Dave Myers. His main role this season was to give Bill a challenge in practice. The Bruins went undefeated again in 1973, as Swen averaged 3 points and 3 rebounds. He played very little in the tournament, as UCLA won another title. Even though he had barely played in his time with the Bruins, Bill Walton had helped his case, claiming that Swen was the best center he played against all year. But he would really stake his claim in the Pizza Hut All-Star game, dropping 34 points and 25 rebounds, winning the game's MVP. Despite never starting a game in college, Swen was picked 16 overall in 1973 by the Bucks to back up Kareem. But he didn't want to come off the bench anymore, so he declined the Bucks' offer, choosing to sign with the Miami Floridians. But he was selected by the Squires in the dispersal draft after the team folded. Virginia was in a weird spot as a franchise, especially as Dr. J left for New York in the offseason. Swen started his pro career off on the right foot, but the Squires were strapped for cash, so he was sold to the Spurs. This was their first year in San Antonio, and they had some building blocks in James Silas, Rich Jones, and Joe Hamilton. In his first game with the Spurs, he dropped 23 points, 9 rebounds, and 3 assists. He put up 32 points, 20 rebounds, and 5 assists on December 22nd against San Diego. The Spurs got even better at the end of January, adding another former Squire in George Gervin. Swen had 16 20-point games, and 5 games with 20 rebounds. He was first in field goal percentage, 4th in rebounds, 18th in blocks. He had the 6th best defensive rating, earning an All-Star appearance as a rookie. George was on the verge of breaking out, while the Spurs were the best rebounding team and they allowed the fewest points, finishing 45 and 39. Swen was a member of the All-ABA second team, winning the Rookie of the Year as well, averaging 15 points, 14 rebounds, and 2 assists. The Spurs faced the Pacers in the semifinals, as Swen dropped 5 double-doubles in this series, including 27 points and 15 rebounds in Game 3. They would lose Game 7, even though Indiana shot 34%. The Spurs were building something, and Swen was a big part of it in 1974. He dropped 17 points and 26 rebounds in the season opener, 24 points and 29 rebounds against Kentucky, and 25 points and 28 rebounds against San Diego. Along with his 21 20-point games, he grabbed 25 rebounds in 10 games, as he was easily the top glass cleaner in the league, earning another All-Star appearance. He also showed his underrated rim protection, blocking at least 3 shots in 10 games. George had become a star, and even though the team changed coaches mid-season, Bob Bass's offensive style would be a great fit for the young Spurs. But it was clear that they heavily relied upon their starters, as George Karl led the reserves with just 8 points a game. Despite this, San Antonio looked like a threat in the Western Division, finishing 51-33. Swen was an All-ABA member again, averaging 15 points, 16 rebounds, 1 assist, and a block. The Spurs got a chance for revenge against the Pacers, but they would go down 3-0. Swen averaged 18 points and 19 rebounds in the next 2 games, as the Spurs won both to make it competitive. Although he dropped 17 points, 19 rebounds, and 2 blocks in Game 6, the Pacers would win in the blowout. The Nets were upset early in the playoffs last year, and Billy Paul's weight issues made him expendable, so they would trade him to the Spurs, also sending Larry Keenan to the Alamo in exchange for Swen. He would share center minutes with Kim Hughes, and he dropped 27 points and 27 rebounds against his former team. But his time in New York would be short, as he was sent back to where it all started, going to the Squires for Jim Eakins. Virginia was a struggling franchise, barely surviving, but Swen would get a lot of opportunity, averaging 18 points and 17 rebounds on 53% shooting in his first 5 games with the team. He had a nice game against the Pacers with 22 points, 19 rebounds, and 4 assists. He was consistent, but the walls were collapsing around him, as the Squires had 5 different head coaches and 18 different players, finishing 15-68. He averaged 11 points, 10 rebounds, and 1 assist. Swen would finally suit up for Milwaukee after the merger, and he would be the starter this time, but this team was still recovering from the loss of Kareem 2 years ago. Swen was proving that he could excel in the NBA as well, dropping 14 points, 22 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 blocks against Cleveland. He had the best game of his career against the Hawks, putting up 30 points and 33 rebounds, followed by 21 points, 26 rebounds, 5 assists, and 4 steals against Philly, and 28 points, 19 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals, and 2 blocks against New Orleans. Bob Dandridge, Brian Winters, and Junior Bridgman all had solid seasons, and Swen was 7th in rebounding and field goal percentage, but the Bucks' lack of defense really hurt them, as they only won 30 games. Swen averaged 13 points, 12 rebounds, and 2 assists. He was on the move again in the offseason, being sent to the Braves for a first-round pick, which would later turn into Marcus Johnson. Outside of Billy Knight and Randy Smith, this team was pretty weak, so Swen had a large role in the offense. He had 27 points, 30 rebounds, and 5 assists against New Jersey, and 30 points, 26 rebounds, and 5 assists against Cleveland. The Braves weren't winning, but he was really hooping as the season wore on, averaging 20 points and 17 rebounds in February and March. He was an elite rebounder as usual, but he had his best playmaking season, dished at least 5 assists in 15 games. In addition to the lack of superstar talent, the Braves were decimated by injuries, winning only 27 games. Swen averaged 16 points, 13 rebounds, and 3 assists. The Braves moved across the country in 1978, becoming the San Diego Clippers. They made quite a few personnel changes, adding World B. Free, Kermit Washington, Nick Weatherspoon, and Sidney Wicks. With all these new players, Swen wasn't as impactful as before, but he still had some decent performances, with 22 and 13 against the Suns, and 22 points, 10 rebounds, and 3 steals against Philly. World had an excellent season, averaging 29 points a game and making the All-NBA second team. Randy Smith was still solid at 30, but outside of him, Nick was the third highest scorer at just under 14 points a game. Even though the Clippers gave up the most points, they finished with a winning record at 43 and 39, but it still wasn't good enough for the postseason, as Swen averaged 11 points, 9 rebounds, and 2 assists. The Clippers had signed Bill Walton in 1978, and he was still barely available in 1979. The Clippers also made 2 confusing moves before the season, as they traded Randy to the Cavs for a first rounder, and then they signed the troubled Marvin Barnes, as he only lasted a month before he was cut. Brian Taylor was back, and with Bill barely in the lineup, Swen was in line for a huge role. He actually recorded his only career triple-double against Utah with 20 points, 19 rebounds, and 10 assists. He put up 28 points and 27 rebounds against the Lakers, and it seemed like he was more dominant than ever on the glass, grabbing 32 boards against the Nuggets, 26 against Kansas City, and 28 against Utah. World somehow improved on last year, averaging over 30 points a game, and Swen was the top board man in the league, becoming the only player to lead the ABA and the NBA in rebounding. Freeman Williams dropped 19 a game off the bench, but it seemed like San Diego was destined for mediocrity, finishing outside the playoffs again at 35 and 47. Swen averaged 13 points, 15 rebounds, and 3 assists. World had left for Cleveland in 1980, so the newly acquired Phil Smith and rookie Michael Brooks were expected to carry the load. Swen was playing like his usual self to start, grabbing 7 double-doubles in his first 10 games. including 21 points, 15 rebounds, 3 assists, and 4 steals on Halloween against Golden State. He scored 21 times and grabbed 20 rebounds 5 times. He actually was the second best rebounder in the league by finishing 9th in field goal percentage. Freeman Williams played even better in his reserve role, while their new additions put up decent numbers. However, this team was still stuck in neutral, finishing 36 and 46. Swen averaged 16 points, 12 rebounds, and 2.5 assists. The Clippers drafted Tom Chambers and Al Wood in 1981, and while Swen started the first 7 games, he was replaced in the starting lineup by Jerome Whitehead, who was 7 years younger. Swen was decent off the bench, but he went down with a knee injury in December. When it was discovered that he needed surgery to remove bone chips, he was limited to 14 games this season and 7 games the next season. By 1983, the Clippers were ready to ship him off, so they packaged him with rookie Byron Scott to the Lakers for Eddie Jordan, Norm Nixon, and 2 second-rounders. In a truly ironic turn of events, Swen would be backing up Kareem over a decade later. With his mobility limited due to a surgery, he was pretty much another body for the Lakers. However, he did drop a season-high 19 points, 8 rebounds, and 3 steals in the season finale. The quartet of Magic, Kareem, Jamal, and James were all solid, helping the Lakers win 54 games. Swen averaged 5 points and 4 rebounds as he made his first playoff appearance since his time in the ABA. The Lakers breezed through the first 3 rounds of the playoffs, losing only 1 game on their way to another finals matchup against Boston. Swen had spot minutes, grabbing 7 rebounds in games 3 and 4, but the Lakers lost the series in 7 games. The Lakers didn't offer him a guaranteed contract after the season, so Swen headed overseas, playing for Australia Udine in the Italian League. He was the highest paid player and he led the league in rebounding, even though the team was relegated. He initially accepted an offer from Barcelona in Spain the next season, but he changed his mind and ultimately retired. After his career, he built the basketball program at Christian Heritage College in San Diego. Once he left the program, he worked for Costco and Puget Sound, while authoring books with John Wooden and Pete Newell. The beginning of Swen Nater's life was as rough as one could imagine, being abandoned by his family and forced to switch from orphanage to orphanage. But lo and behold, a TV show gave him the opportunity to come to America. His development was extremely slow, as he would excel in JUCO, earning a scholarship at UCLA despite never playing in high school. But playing time didn't come in UCLA either, as he spent his time developing even more. He became a first-round pick despite never starting a game in college, and he turned that into a decade-long career. His offensive game was still raw coming into the league, but his elite rebounding and underrated defense kept him on the floor. Once he was in San Diego, he developed a solid post game and was one of the most productive starters in the league. But Swen's story was one of the biggest examples of overcoming the odds and making something out of yourself. Man, thank you guys. I really appreciate y'all. Like, when I first heard of his story, that really caught me. Like, what? He was abandoned as a child and he somehow gets to America and he's just developing his game and he goes to UCLA. He never starts a game. He's really just there to develop Bill Walton and he's still a first-round pick. That's ridiculous. And that shows his work ethic and how much time he really committed to getting better. He knew he wasn't the best offensively yet, but he knew he could get on the court with his hustle. He knew he was a great rebounder. He was a great screen setter. He did the small things. And it's great because especially when you got to the ABA, you saw that talent really come true in the more open league. And when he got to the NBA, he was a great player as well. It's just too bad he was never on any competing teams, but people could see how good of a player he was. Just to come from being abandoned as a child, by some miracle you come to America and you're able to work on your game and get better. Salute to Swen, man. Salute to him, man. Salute to him taking this opportunity and making the best out of it. Salute to him, man. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate y'all. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Hit that subscribe button if you're new to my channel. Turn my post notifications on if you haven't already. Thank you. Please be safe. Stay on the grind. Have a great day. I'm out. Peace.